Greetings, Malifaux fans. This is Crazy Carl from the Weird Forums, back with another Malifaux video battle report. Today I was playing a 35 Soulstone scrap against Pat, also known as Haggis McMutton on the Weird Forums, and we were doing Guild versus Arcanists. Going into the match, Pat had indicated that he was going to play Lucius as a master, which he asked me if I had any problem with it. I'm like, no, I don't really care either way. I did let him know that it might be a little bit underpowered, just in general, even against a master, not playing any sort of super optimized list, but he said he didn't really care, so we went with it anyway. So I flipped Contain Power, Pat had Distract, so I think Pat originally flipped something awkward for Lucius, and he actually used the free Soulstone for reflipping the strategy, and that's how he ended up with Distract, which I guess isn't the worst against aRamos. Problem is, spoiler, I was playing aRamos, but you'll see the problem in a moment. So Pat brought along what I thought was actually a pretty solid crew. I think it would have been a little bit better if he had taken Lady Justice and then cut out a couple models instead, but regardless. Pat brought along Lucius with the what's that card? The Drill Sergeant attached. He then had Ryle, 3 Guild Guard. The Desperate Mercenary is actually a proxy for the female Guild Guard, and then 2 Wardens. So very strong crew, a lot of good shooting, good melee, just really solid all around. He took Raid and then extra Soulstones, so he ended up with a 3 Soulstone cache instead of the second scheme. I brought along aRamos with the Rail Golem, Mobile Toolkit, Large Steampunk Arachnid, and 2 Spiders, and I think I had a 7 Soulstone cache. I thought this is a decent crew for Contain Power, especially against Lucius. The Rail Golem is nice because you get the pluses on attack flips with his paired, and then he has a 0 action, which gives him additional pluses on his attack flips. So I thought that might be pretty nice if I can get the Rail Golem into Lucius to kind of try and tear him up. The Large Steampunk Arachnid was mostly... I was planning on mostly using it to blow up for scrap, but I thought I might use it against the Guild Guard because it ignores armor, and that'd be pretty strong. So we would see how it would go as the game went on. Turn 1, Pat just advanced his crew. He was going to issue commands to Ryle, but then remembered that he can't. So he kind of just spread everything out. He had one of the Wardens move up basically straight up the center of the board, right in front of Lucius, with the Guild Guard attached, or sorry, with the Drill Sergeant attached to give him pluses on his melee attack flips. And then the action from the Guild Guard would give him more attack pluses. So he'd just have a ton of pluses, and if something of mine activated, it'd have even more. The other Warden moved up behind the building, I guess to try and cover that flank in case I tried to move around that side, which I didn't think was a bad plan. And Pat originally wanted to climb something up there or something, I don't remember. It was some awkward movement that he wanted to do, and I reminded him that the Wardens have mobile, so they're like the Ronin, that they can climb very easily. They don't care about terrain, it's cool, not a big deal, they'll just Spider-Man up them. For my part, I flipped a Black Joker on my casting of Summon Electrocreation. So what I ended up doing was summoning it with the Mobile Toolkit, because I happened to have the card for it, and summoned a Spider, which I then moved up with the other Spiders to surround one of Pat's Guild Guard. I was thinking about swarming together, but I don't think I ended up doing it in the long run. I don't remember why, but that's just what happens sometimes, I guess. There you can see a shot of aRamos summoning the Electrocreation, or sorry, the Mobile Toolkit summoning the Electrocreation on turn 2 to get in the way of the Warden, which is on the other side of that building, as you will see very shortly. I didn't want the Warden to be able to pop out, and then I'd have a Warden on 2 flanks, able to shoot off their fists at aRamos, because aRamos has a very low defense, and if he had already activated, they get a plus on the attack flip, and he has a better chance of getting the paralyzed trigger off, which I didn't want to happen because I like my master being unparalyzed. So I figured that with the lowish defense of the Warden, that I guess they're defense 5, so not super low, but I thought my Electrocreation might be able to tie him up, and I got a wound off on him in the meantime, so I guess it worked out pretty well for me. The boiler over there, as you see, is my stake a claim target, in case I didn't mention that sooner. So one of my spider swarm of spiders, not spider swarm because I didn't swarm them together, ended up killing off one of the Grave Guard, or one of the Guild Guard, and my Rail Golem ended up dying because I lost initiative on turn 3, and Lucius was able to obey a Warden 3 times to attack and kill it. So bad times for me. I was less than pleased. I was down quite a few models at this point. I'd already killed my large Steampunk Arachnid for scrap counters, and I was hoping the Rail Golem would be able to activate and just wreck holy hell on Pat, but ended up not working out the way. I had something like 8. I had like 5 burning counters going into the turn, and then obviously once he started hitting me, it knocked me up more. But I wasn't able to get the activations off to be able to heal him up. What I was planning on doing was having aRamos Companion with the Mobile Toolkit, have aRamos walk up twice, cast Combat Mechanic on the Golem, and then have the Toolkit repair the Golem as well. So it was going to be really nice for me, and then have aRamos make the Golem go next. But As you see, it ended up not being that way. The burst ended up not killing anything, but it put a lot of damage on the stuff, which was really good. It's a 3-inch burst, so it does a lot of damage, which was really nice. Here you can see the warden that I was trying to block with my electrocution was able to take a walk away. He used Relentless and failed that action, then walked, and then with the second AP shot me with these paralyzing fists, or whatever it's called, the thing that does paralyzing. Ended up hitting the electrocution for 2 wounds, so that when it activated, it ended up dying and not doing anything, which was unfortunate. So in response, I manifested Avatar aRamos, and I manifested aRamos into his avatar, summoned a large steampunk arachnid up on the building, and put it right next to the Guardian. This is on turn 4, I believe. So I was like, awesome, I'm gonna keep that guy pinned down, and it's gonna be good for me. As it turned out, Pat was able to get the toss trigger with the warden, tossed the large steampunk arachnid away, and then was able to paralyze it. So it was really unfortunate because I hadn't activated it yet, so I was going to be slow on my next activation, which made me very sad, but what are you going to do? You can see a lot of scrap sitting there because Pat took the opportunity to kill off a couple of my spiders. I was able to kill off Ryle with a bunch of my spiders shortly thereafter, leaving me a bunch more scrap, which was good for me. Here you can see a shot of Lucius, which you haven't seen many shots of him recently because he was just sitting in the backfield issuing commands and being a pimp with his pimp cane. That guild guard there, I don't think it actually had taken any wounds for most of the game going into turn 5. It survived a long time without being scathed, which was, I guess, good for it, but not good for me because I needed to keep him low on minions so he wouldn't beat me on raid. Here you can see a shot of aRamos. aRamos ended up not moving around a whole lot. I ended up casting Override, I believe. Or I was going to cast Override and then didn't. So I just kind of sat there. I wanted to override my spiders into Lucius, but ended up not working out that way. The spiders killed off Hoffman pretty easily. Something we weren't sure about is if you can get a model down to defense 0. I think you can with the latch-ons, but I don't think you can go to negatives. It's something we have to check at some point. So going into turn 6, I was able to use my my large steampunk arachnid ended up dying to the warden, and that was unfortunate for me. But fortunately, I had used innovative design to give aRamos one AP charges. So the turn prior, he had killed off a bunch of models. Right before he manifested, he killed off a warden and then a guild guard, I think, with his electrical fire, and then he manifested, charged, and killed off something else with his clockwork fist. So he's able to get his scheme pretty easily there. I was able to charge as you can see, I had a nice charge lane to hit the warden with aRamos, which I did. So basically the turn order went, turn 6 I had all my spiders charge at Lucius to try and get in his way, but highest authority basically meant I don't think I landed a single attack on him, which I was expecting. So even after trying to latch on, it wouldn't do me much good. aRamos was able to use his one action charge to charge and kill off the warden in one hit because the warden had already taken a bunch of damage from my large steampunk arachnid and the one shot it took from the electrocution. aRamos then used Trash into Treasures, I think is what it's called, the one that's his summoning action. I was able to summon a large steampunk arachnid, and I just plopped it sitting right on the boiler because it didn't really need to do anything else. I had my 4 points wrapped up, and I wasn't terribly worried about Pat getting his 2 because aRamos was sitting on his side of the board. Although he did point out to me that I needed to have aRamos in his deployment zone to deny him extra points. So it meant I had to choose between going after my contained power or going after his deployment zone to deny him points. So if this was a tournament game, I'd have to decide, do I want to go for points or do I want to deny him points? And that really depends on the scoring metrics. If it was a tournament points game, I would have had aRamos make a beeline for Lucius and try to kill him off. As it was just a fun game, and having your stuff killed off is not very fun. So I ended up walking aRamos over a couple times and leaping him into his deployment zone. If we happened to get a turn 8, which as you can see we went to a turn 7, I would try and kill off Lucius, but ended up not being the case. The spiders, I was considering detonating them to try and do a bunch of damage to Lucius, but then I remembered he has 10 wounds, so that wasn't really going to do much good to me. You can see another picture of the spider sitting on the boiler at the end of the game. So the way the end game ended up working out is Pat ended up with no minions left over, so he didn't get any points for his raid. aRamos was sitting in his deployment zone, so he got no points for Distract. I ended up getting no points for Contained Power because Lucius is actually reasonably hard to take out, even as a master, or even when he's taken by himself. I got 2 points from my do I have to do everything myself, because he did, and then I got 2 points for my stake of claim. So the game ended up being a fairly close 4-0, but the model counts were fairly lopsided towards the end of the game. But regardless, it was a lot of fun, and we enjoyed it, and hope you guys did too. See you next time.